looking a little darker today. Like, oh, the bride is so light skinned, so fair, as if like being lighter skin is the highest compliment.
What is a baby's color? And if it's fair or very fair, everyone is so happy.
I have faced quite a bit of negative comments while growing up about my color. Hey everyone, welcome to Chocolate and Spice Talk. I am Neha. I am 44 years old, a mom to a college going son. I live in California in the US. I was born and raised in India.
Hey everyone, I'm Nidhi. I'm 40 years old, mom to a 7-year-old, and I live in Texas, United States. And I was also born and brought up in India.
And in case you're new here, we're both sisters. And as sisters who grew up in India and experienced our childhood there, today we're tackling something that quite a few South Asian folks in the world have experienced, either directly or by seeing somebody else subjected to it.
And we are talking about colorism. And fair warning, it is going to get real, real.
Yep. And that's the thing about colorism, right? Like nobody sits you down and teaches it to you. You just feel it around yourself. You just breathe it in. It at least it used to be when we were growing up, it used to be on the TV ads, and it used to be the way the uncles and the aunties and your neighbors talk at family gatherings. It's everywhere in the Bollywood movies, I think even now, where the main lead actress would be several shades lighter than the actors or the rest of the country, I guess. And before you know it, we all would have internalized a whole belief system and base our worth on the color of our skin. So today we want to rip all of that open, and we're going to be talking about colorism, what it is, where it comes from, and what it's cost us as a community, as individuals, and of course as a culture. And so let's figure out if there is a way to change it as well.
All right, let's do this. Let's set the stage first. So, what exactly is colorism and how is it different from racism? So, let's start with the basics. So, colorism is prejudice or discrimination based on skin tone, usually favoring lighter skin over darker skin. And here is the key thing, it appears within the same racial or ethnic group. So, it's not about like a white person being prejudiced against a brown person, it's about brown people discriminating against other brown people based on how light or dark their skin is.
Right. And colorism therefore feels more personal, more intimate because it's in your own family, your own community, your own, people telling you that your shade of brown isn't the right shade of brown. A research in the UK in 2025 examining colorism, body image, and self-esteem actually found that discrimination from within your own group is especially harmful, precisely because these are supposed to be your safe spaces, and that's what makes it unfortunately so painful.
Yeah. And I don't think this is just a South Asian thing, right? Colorism exists in East Asian communities, in Latino communities, Black communities. But the way it shows up in like South Asian world has its own specific flavor. And we both will be focusing on that specific thing because we are South Asian and that's the experience we carry.
Yep. So let's go a bit into, what started this obsession with fair skin and if there are any historical roots to it, which of course is a very, very difficult question because, it's so hard to really pinpoint a moment in time. But just sifting through all the data and information that's out there, there are actually quite a few historical layers at play. So the first is the caste system in ancient India. And some scholars think that in pre-colonial India, there was not a lot of discrimination purely on skin color, the way we think of it today. The caste system or the Varn system, and the fun fact is, I looked up the meaning of the word Varn, which literally translates to color or tone in Sanskrit. So, anyway, the caste system was actually more about your occupation and your social hierarchy. But over time, because certain communities would perform the harder outdoor labor in the sun, while other groups would stay indoor and perform work in relative comfort, their skin would potentially be lighter than those who were out in the sun, right? And so then the lighter skin got more loosely associated with higher position. I don't think there was a strict correlation, but potentially, like I feel like maybe the seed was already planted
Yeah.
from there.
For sure. And I think apart from that, there's another layer, which is like the British colonialism when the British ruled India from 1858 onwards. and they did supercharge the caste color connection between the upheld within their own racial worldwide, right? So lighter skinned Indians were given like clerical jobs, they were given jobs in administrations, they were given invitation to social clubs, and darker skinned Indians were barred. So by the time British left India, which was in 1947, more than five generations of Indians were eternalized with this system. So imagine five generations. So when people say just get over it, it's not that easy. They don't understand that this has been coded into our like social DNA for centuries, and it's just we can't just get over it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's what really strikes me as odd because I feel like it's almost this correlation between the position in society and color. I feel like it's almost false, right? Because there's this assumption that the well-to-do sections of the society are lighter skin and fairer, and the more marginalized sections are darker, but that's not accurate. Like overall, people all over South Asia have varying skin tones, like all over. You can go to any part of the country. And I feel like it was a stereotype that became like a self-fulfilling thing because of how ultimately the messaging, the marketing spread it.
Yeah. And let's not forget the role the brand Fair in India played
You
in
mean
this.
Fair and Lovely?
Yes, Fair and Lovely. Yes, but you know what I'm talking about. We
Yeah, yeah,
saw
yeah.
Fair and Lovely like all over throughout our childhood, like
Yeah.
all our teenagehood. It was everywhere. It was launched as a brand that filled the demands for skin lightening products in India in 1970s. And most of us from South Asia know this one way or the other, right? It had led such a impactful marketing via famous actresses, celebrities, before and after ads promote skin lightening products that shot to success for over like 50 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Go
So
ahead.
do you
Go
want
ahead.
to go to the next section, which in which we do want to talk about how does colorism show up in our families and upbringing? And most of us from Indian subcontinent have heard this so many times. She is dark, but she is pretty, as if those two things are like naturally contradictory, and if being dark requires a but to justify your beauty, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we pretty much, and it's also insidious. If you're not watching out for it, you won't even know, right? Like at home, you'd be told, hey, apply this haldi. So haldi is turmeric, right? Haldi mask. It'll lighten your skin. And by the way, these are instructions not given with any malice, right? That's the tricky part. It's not meant to offend. It's not meant to hurt you. It is said with love and concern because it's like, oh, just put it there and you're going to have a better life because you're going to have a better, lighter skin and it's going to open doors for you. And people genuinely believe it. And so they're being nice to you. Just a tragedy, I guess.
Yeah. But I think what's interesting is that my experience was very different from yours, and maybe
Mm.
from a lot of other South Asian women. And I think the part of the story is because colorism is all based on perception. Like you in a household while growing up, you were the darker one and I was the fairer one. So actually, honestly, I don't remember a lot from my childhood anybody telling me anything about my skin tone because the focus was more on you. So yeah, share your story.
Yeah, this is the part that was tough for me, right? And this is the part that you even didn't know until we started talking about it like a few weeks back, because I've never shared it because I just didn't know how to say it, right? So for context for our viewers and listeners, Nidhi and I, of course, are sisters, and in our family, our mom is the lightest skin, right? Again, we're all shades of brown, but of all the three of us, she has the lightest skin. And Nidhi has almost as light skin tone as our mom, like or just a little bit darker. And I have the darkest of the three. And one of the interesting things that at least when we were growing up in India, we had was this thing called wheatish complexion. So if you're very light, the lighter you are, the more amazing. But there's this idea of wheatish. So if you have like a complexion of a wheat grain, you're still okay. Like, okay, fine, you're wheatish, you're okay. But if you are darker than wheatish, then poor you, oh man, what's gonna happen to your life situation, right? So my case was more or less in that direction, at least as I was a child growing up, playing in the sun and all of that and getting tanned. And so I would hear all kinds of comment, and I kid you not, it has taken me what? I'm in my mid 40s. It has taken me decades, decades of rethinking, questioning myself, like analyzing all those comments before I've reached the stage that I have today. And I have not forgotten almost any of those comments. The situations I was in, the people who gave me those comments, I remember them. So you can imagine how it impacted my psyche. And the comments would be things like, "Are you sure you're from the same family?"
Really?
Yeah, of course. Um, I remember, and and all of this, by the way, when I was very young, I think there was this one time when I was maybe 9 or 10, like very young, and I overheard somebody saying, "How is she gonna get married?" And I'm like, okay, imagine intrinsically at age 9 and 10, when marriage is the last thing on your mind, and somebody's talking about your skin color and saying, "How is she gonna get married?" Because implication being, as a dark woman, what are the odds I would ever get married? And then somebody's saying, because my eyes are larger, like, "Oh, well, at least her eyes are large." Like, implication being, there's no way she's ever going to be attractive or beautiful because she's so dark. And, well, she's got some consolation somewhere. So another one would be, and that's why, if you remember, I would never, I mean, I was never a shopping person. I was never into a lot of clothes or stuff or makeup. A lot of it probably was because I'm like, what's the point? Like, what's the point, right? And I remember anytime I typically like more muted, lighter colors. That's how I am. And people would be like, "Oh, don't wear lighter colors. It'll not make you look good." Implication being, it'll make you look darker, which is worse. So avoid wearing lighter, duller colors, and or certain color, because it'll make your skin, whatever makes my skin look darker is a bad idea, is was the thing. And so, and these are just a few of the comments. I could go on and on. There are quite a few comments of similar type like that. I clearly remember hurting me a lot. And so when these things keep happening to you over and over again through your primary school, all the way through your teenage, you don't know anything else. You just internalize the fact that, one, there is no way you will ever be attractive thanks to your color. There's no point even trying. And second, this is what the meaning of beauty is. So neither you are beautiful, clearly, because you are light skinned. Mom is like automatically beautiful. Every light skinned person I see has to be very beautiful. I don't know, like that's my experience.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
God, I didn't know a lot of this. I knew I was also 5 years younger, but I knew a lot of it, but I didn't see it from this perspective. So I
Oh,
know it's
a
hard, but thank
lot. Like,
you for
I remember, like, in the matrimonial sites, when they'd be like, "Oh, we want a fair, thin, tall, whatever." Like, and they'd be like, "Well, you're not qualifying for it."
sharing.
Yep, certainly not.
But it did get real for me too. So, and the first time I actually felt colorism was when I went to college, and suddenly people around me from a different part of the countries, and they were much fairer than me. And that was the first time I felt the partiality towards like lighter skin people, because that was the first time I realized, oh, there is a bias there. So people who are lighter skinned, they do get treated different, like
Mhm.
differently. And I was always shielded for this because in our family, because
Yeah.
based on perception, I never had to, deal with any of this. But now in this bigger world, suddenly I was on the other side, right? And I'll tell you another story that has stuck with me is that when I was in college here, in America, I was like, I don't know, 25, 26 years old. And I was hanging around with a group of friends, and we were like looking at a magazine with a lot of actresses. And there was a fair skinned Indian actress, a Bollywood
Mm.
actress.
Hmm.
So I said, I got really excited, and I was like, oh, look, she is a very famous Bollywood actress. And the guy, he said, oh, really? She is a famous Indian actress. Are you sure? She's too pretty to be Indian. And I was like, everybody was quiet. And he said it so casually. And I was like, what the hell just happened? What does it even mean? Too pretty to be Indian? So being Indian and being pretty are like contradictory. They can't be like one thing. And that comment lived in my head for such a long time because it was coming from like, not within your community. It was from outside. Somebody
Hmm.
was basically saying something. So the default, I mean, that's how I felt at that time. The default is that if you're Indian, you're not pretty. And if you are fair enough, to break the mold, and then you probably are not Indian. So that's colorism from completely different angle, but it does cut pretty deep.
Very interesting, very interesting. And I had I have a slightly different experience, life experience. So for me, I started growing out of my colorism bubble when I stepped out of the home, when I stepped out of our typical neighborhood. And that's when I realized that doesn't matter. So I'll give you like an exact opposite example of what you just gave. So one of the first times I really felt empowered was when I came to the US. And I came here pretty early in my early 20s, and like people here are very sweet. Like that was my experience, and I would get complimented, like somebody I'd gone somewhere, and somebody who is who's an American, who would say, hey, you look good, or you look beautiful. And I genuinely could not understand that. And and that person, if that person is white skin, a white American, I'd be like, wait a minute, this person is white. This person is the lightest possible skin I've seen. And clearly, can he not tell I'm brown? How does he or she think I'm beautiful? And that happened enough times when I'd gone to Europe. People there would also say like, hey, you look good or whatever. And I'm like, instead of taking it at face value, I'd start fully questioning my perspective in life. I'm like, how on earth are they calling me beautiful? It's impossible. And that's when I realized that I myself have started living in that bubble. I have started associating beauty with light skin so much that I cannot imagine a lighter skinned person can call a darker skinned person beautiful, which is a weird thing and which, like, imagine how I ended up realizing that and how much I must have internalized. And then it occurred to me, like, if me, who was potentially a victim, I've come out of that victim status long, long, long back. But if I could feel that way, imagine those who live in that bubble and have lived in that bubble all their lives. They are not able to come out of it. So when they make those comments, they're not being malicious. They're not being unkind in their mind. They're just being factual. They're just stating facts. Oh, you're getting darker. Oh, well, you're dark. How are you going to get married? That's a fact of life. How are your career going to progress? I don't know, whatever.
Mhm.
And so, really, what is needed is more representation, more clarity on the fact that beauty is one, not skin deep, and beauty is nothing to do with color or shades,
Mhm.
which is, I'm hoping we're getting there, but my own realization made me realize like we need that so bad.
All
Yeah,
right. Thank you for sharing that. I know that's
I
never
know.
easy.
Sorry.
All right. Moving on to children. So, when your child, Aryan, was born, do you think you faced any kind of colorism in any way possible?
To be honest, so again, I was pregnant with my son in my mid 20s, like early to mid 20s. And I am ashamed to say this now. I was in the US by that time, so a lot of the colorism ideas had gone out of my head. But knowing what I knew about India, I'm ashamed to say I did wonder what his skin color is going to be. So when I was pregnant with him, I did wonder. And the thing is, my husband is several shades lighter than I am. So he's what would be called very fair in India. And I'm not. And I'm like, well, let's see what happens, right? And so when my son was born and he was lighter skinned than I am, everyone in the family seemed pleased. Of course, they would ask me what's his color, and I'd be like, well, he's more like, my husband's color. Like, oh, amazing. Though there would be a few comments here and there that'd be like, well, he's not really that light skinned though. So yes, there was chatter, and then I realized like under no circumstances am I gonna let my son ever
Mhm.
live in that kind of talk. And I would shield him in every possible way from these comments and make sure he does not think of skin color as anything at all. And it was easier for me because we live in the US, and there's really not a lot of chat about the shades of brown and all of that, at least around my where I live. And so I pretty much tried to protect him as much as I could, and my mama bear would fire up if anyone ever mentioned his color. Like if it'd go to India and people would mention the color, I'm like, I don't want, I cannot stand that talk at all. And he's 20 years old now, right? So I know that, he's had his own life experiences, and colorism in various forms is a fact of life no matter where you live. So he has seen his share of it, but what he has experienced is very different from what you and I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, when I was pregnant with Vikram, I never thought of the color. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm lighter skin and my husband is darker. But when we did go to India, and I went with him to India for the first time when he was 4 years old, that was the first time when people around, like neighbors, everybody came and met him,
Mhm. Yeah.
and everybody said, "Oh, Vikram didn't get his mom's color because I'm lighter and he's
Mm,
darker." And they would say it, oh no, as if it's such a sad thing. They would say, almost like pitting way. It's like, oh, it is such a loss. And I'm standing there thinking, you had the opportunity to say so many things, so many nice things. You could have said so many things. Out of all the things you chose to say when you saw my son, is say that he didn't get his mother's color. And I'm like, it would get me so furious, like the way you're saying, like it would get me so furious. Thankfully, he's so young, he didn't understand any of that, but it would get me so furious. Like, you could have chosen to be positive and say so many good things, and you chose to like belittle the whole the whole thing by saying that. But what gives me hope is that from a school perspective, I don't know if it is specific to school or because the times are different. Vikram doesn't see skin color as something that should be judged. He states it as a fact. Like, he says, oh, mama is light brown, papa is dark brown, just like I'm dark brown. And and he appreciates his skin. So when I tell him, oh, Vikram, you're so beautiful, and he said, yeah, mama, look at me, I have this beautiful chocolate caramel like skin, and he has this confidence. And maybe
so
he
beautiful.
learns it in the school, I don't know, maybe in home we just appreciate all, we appreciate color body of all sizes. And maybe he sees the representation at school, I don't know, whatever it is. But I just love that he has this kind of confidence in his skin, and he doesn't see it as something that anybody needs to be judged on. And I'm pretty sure things are going to change in middle school. He's still only 7. Things are like so innocent right now. Things will change, but I have nothing to compare it to, right? He's my only child. I don't know how things are going to be. Maybe you can help me out later. But right now, it's a beautiful stage where he appreciates everything so much.
I know, and that's a dream, and I hope it continues, and I really hope it continues, and I hope he intrinsically believes that because, well, again, nobody can predict the future, right? Futures can always be better, but I know that at a certain stage, because of, you know, different people come at any topic from different perspectives, and then that starts getting reflected in their kids, and then the kids talk about it, and then at kids at school as they grow older, they'll put their own spin to even color, and then it starts putting that seed of doubt in people's heart. I'm just hoping that the seed of self-belief and self-possession and self-assuredness is so strong in Vikram that was like, well, you say you, I hear me. And hopefully that's how it's gonna be. And that's really a dream.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll tell you one quick story. So
Yeah.
my son had like his 7-year-old well child's wellness check with
Yeah.
the doctor, and she talked something very very interesting. And she said, like, this is the age starting from like 4 to 9 when you set values as a family. And values can be anything, whether it's doing chores or talking about skin color, not being bully, being kind, whatever it is. You set these values, which is what you talked about, like self-belief, confidence. And this is the age where you have values, and by the time the kid is like 10, there are hormones, there are things not going around, but these values and these rules actually help them navigate the difficult part of their life a little bit better. Like, once they're not confused, then they don't feel lost because they have certain set of values. So that's my hope for Vikram, is like, I'm helping him set those values so that moving forward, he knows where he belongs, he knows his self-worth. So that would be pretty amazing if we can
I know.
really do
I
that.
know. I was just reminded of a podcast I was listening to yesterday, which is so amazing and so inspiring. It featured Boss Saint John. John, I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong. Boss Saint John. She's a very, very famous marketing executive, and she was talking about, how when people initially, when she came to the US, and people would look at her and they'd be like, there was a negative connotation because of her color and all that. And then she said she truly couldn't understand. She could not, she said, then I would go and look at myself in the mirror and I'd be like, what are they talking about? Like, I am fabulous. I am amazing. I mean, look at me. What are they not seeing? And the, and she had true conviction. And she said, like, that's what I thought as a kid or as a teenager or something. Like, I looked at the mirror and the most amazing creature looked back at me. And then when I would go out in the world, they'd be like, no, stay away. And she couldn't understand. And that can only come from what you just said. Like, that self-belief is so well established that it cannot move you. Like, you truly believe in that. And that's how, I mean, again, like, that would have been a dream. That'd be so
That got
good.
me theory. I'm also hormonal. But,
No, this
sorry.
this is this is very emotional. This
This
is,
is very
yeah,
emotional. Like that's what we all achieve to be like. In we are in middle age, right? And I think I have this point. I've reached that point in my life where I'm like, I don't care what you speak about me. Like we have talked about this. Like I know my self worth. I know what I am. So no matter what you say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. Anyway, let's stay on the topic and let's talk about colorism in marriage and relationships. So this is a big one, right? So marriage is probably the colorism in South Asian culture is most like brutally visible. Like matrimonial ads have listed like light skin color as a requirement for decades. Wanted
yep.
fair bride, well for a well settled boy. Like it's not subtle; they make it crystal clear, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You could sort, I think you can sort out potential matches by their color. Like, are you fair? Are you wheatish? Are you dark? And so it's interesting that like the famous sites like Shadi.com, Bharat Matrimony, and a lot of those continue to do it. There was a woman from Toronto, and this is based on some research that I did. Her name is Meghan Nagpal. She started a petition against this in 2020 about, like, that filtering via shades and the via color. And initially, Shadi.com defended it by saying it was included for parents searching for matches for their children. Uh, so it kind of shows, like, it's like a demand and supply thing. Like, clearly people wanted it so bad, they did put it, but then it's also a chicken and egg problem. Like, maybe if you don't put it, people would not consider it. So,
They did remove the filters, by the way. So
oh,
those
they did remove the filters,
remove the
right?
filters after public, backlash. But the attitude behind them, I think those are much harder to filter out, right?
I guess, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, like, I don't know, like, if qualification should be based on skin color or not. But I can, like I said, my husband is much more lighter skinned than I am. And for me, by the time I got married, it was not a problem. Like, I was very sure of myself and how I looked and what I wanted in life, for that to not be a consideration one way or the other. And my husband is like one of the most open, you know him, right? Open-hearted person. So, like, it was not even a consideration. I was like, "You're getting a catch," and he was like, "I know I'm getting a catch." So
Look at my confidence glowing from inside out.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I knew I was getting a catch. He knew he was getting a catch, and we were both perfectly fine with that. But yes, there was a little bit of, like, things in the society overall. I was like, just based on color, this person is like, the boy is lighter skinned than the girl. Like, how does that work out? But I didn't hear a lot of it, just to be honest. Maybe again, I literally moved to the US, I think, right after my marriage. So I never had the chance to hear any comments one way or the other. And now we have been married for what, 21, 22 years. And, it's too late for anybody to comment anything. So it's been perfectly fine. And I
Yeah.
don't think colorism really played a large part in my marriage whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
People probably said, like, I remember when you got married, I was very young. People said, नेहा बहुत सुंदर है लेकिन उसका रंग सांवला है. And I'll say that in
Ah,
English. It's like, Neha is very beautiful, but there was a but. She's
yeah.
dark. So they would
Yeah.
say that there was always a but. but I think you were shielded because you moved to America so soon. I'm pretty sure if we
Oh,
interview our mom, she'll have another story where she had to like listen to a lot of this, like, oh, the son-in-law is so fair and your daughter is not. And there might be like a lot of like
oh.
gossips around it.
Well, thank God I didn't hear another of those set of negative comments, so
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like that's where like the double standards come in play, right? In my case, I'm the lighter one. My husband is the darker one, so it was perfectly fine. There is like the specific South Asian thing where a man can be darker, and that's fine,
Mm,
but the woman has to be fairer, and that's kind of set expectation, and that's
mm,
messed up, right? Like the double standard is so clear. So for my thing, the closest I experienced anything was height. And what
mm,
would like in if you compare that to colorism, it's totally different. But like my husband is very tall and clearly I'm not, so people would say that, if only Nidhi was a little bit taller, their match would have looked so much better. Even till this day, I've been married for 15
oh,
years. Even last year I was in India, people still said, oh, and when we were standing together taking pictures, there were like few comments said, if only Nidhi was a little bit taller, they would have looked so much better. And I'm like, what the hell? But anyway, so the idea is like the fact that you have to match your physical body to something to be to be getting people approval. That's so messed up, right? That
that's
shouldn't
so
be a
messed up.
thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, yeah, height, body size,
Yeah.
shape,
Anything.
color. Ugh,
Yeah.
the topics are endless here.
All right.
Well, all right,
Uh,
let's talk about Fair and Lovely.
all
What's the
right.
story there?
So, Fair and Lovely might be the most iconic example of how colorism was commercialized. So, it was launched by Hindustan Unilever in 1970s, and it became the number one skin lightening cream in India, holding roughly 80% of like the market share. And for decades, it had advertisements like jaw dropping, like explicitly showing how important light skin is. They showed like dark skinned women and later men passed over for jobs, ignored in relationships, treated as invisible. And then after using Fair and Lovely, all of a
Yep.
sudden they became lighter and their life transformed. And they get the job, they get the love of their life. Oops, I lost my earring. And they got the love of their life, the confidence, everything. And we saw so much of it growing up. I don't know if you remember, it was everywhere. It was hard
Oh
to
my
escape
God.
that.
Those ads were really everywhere. And it was a direct line. There was no subtlety, by the way. I clearly remember. And th those things also played on your mind, right? Like there was a direct line between, you know, dark skin and failure, dark skin and failure, light skin and success. It was like very clear. The storyline was very clear. Like even a before and after would
Yeah.
show in the same image. And stepping into the controversy though, the Advertising Standards Council of India, which is a self-regulatory body for ad industry in India, in 2014 it issued guidelines about advertising of skin whitening products. So it did say in its guidelines that, the ads shouldn't show certain skin color or dark skin color in this case as inferior in whatever, like marriage, employment, or whatever, or show people with dark skin as unattractive or unhappy or depressed or something. So there were some guidelines that were issued.
It sucks that it took such a long time
Yeah.
to get there. But in 2020, what happened was the Black Lives Matters movement was created that had like the whole global awakening around race and skin color. And
Mhm.
that's when a 22-year-old woman in Mumbai, her name was Chandan Hiran, and she started a petition against Fair and Lovely, and it gathered like more than 15,000 signatures in just 2 weeks. And then eventually Hindustan Unilever finally announced that they would rebrand or rename Fair and Lovely and remove the name, like the word fair, lightening, and they called it Glow and Lovely. It's just, yeah, sure. I don't know what your thoughts are, but it doesn't help a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, 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 yeah. I think her name was Chandana Hiran.
Okay, sorry, Chandana Hiran. Okay,
Chandana Hiran.
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like, I think like here's my thought on this. Yes, yes, it was just a word, and they removed the word fair and call it glow. So it's now glow and lovely rather than fair and lovely.
Mhm.
But I feel like words have power on perception. And the fact that they did change it and they were forced to change, and the fact that signatures were gathered and this woman took it upon herself to spread the message. All of that is a positive sign, in my opinion. It's a step in the right direction, albeit a very small step, but at least a step versus like years of conditioning. And so now, at least when you read the brand, it's not like fair and so lovely. No, it could have as well been dark and lovely, right? So, okay, they just want to make glow and lovely. Now, the interesting question will be anytime people say, "Oh, you're looking brighter," "Oh, you're glowing," does it imply you're more lighter skin? I don't know. There's a chance that's how terminologies change, but either way, at least the past of like fair being the only lovely thing, at least that's changed is how
Hopefully.
I look
Yeah,
at it.
you're right. Words matter.
Words. Yeah,
Words
yeah,
matter.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the skin lighting industry is pretty big, right? Like not just in India, actually, it's pretty big globally. And the global skin lightening products market was valued at $10 billion in 2025, and it's projected to, I think, almost double by 2034. The Asia Pacific region accounts for over 50% of that market. And of course, you can imagine India alone represents a pretty significant portion of that.
Oh, wow. Well, now we know. All right, let's move on to the emotional and the mental health toll. So, what does colorism do to mental health?
Yeah, so interestingly, I think I already mentioned it earlier as well, or maybe I didn't. But there was a paper published in 2025, and it was a UK study with 552 Black and South Asian adolescents. We can link that research study in our notes, and it found that satisfaction with your skin shade was strongly and consistently linked to body esteem and overall self-esteem. And researchers pointed out something that was actually, I think, really important, which is in-group colorism, which means like your own community's colorism has a worse effect on perception of health. So when this colorism comes from your own family, your own community, and your own surroundings, and from folks who have similar color like you, it's going to hit you far more than if it had come from a different group.
And that's true. And I think it doesn't just stay in your adolescence. It follows you. It shapes
Yep.
how you show up in job interviews, in social situations, in romantic relationship. And there's always a constant undercurrent of like, am I good enough? And the dark skinned South Asian carried this with them. And some of the people carried this entire life, ever, renaming it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I mentioned, I mean, I pretty much mentioned a lot of the comments that I heard in my very early childhood, all through my teenage years. And it took me stepping out of the home, going to college, starting to work outside in a different part of the country, coming to the US to actually realize that color has really nothing to do with it, right? Like, it is all a made up theory and we're just sticking to it. And it took me a really long time as an adult to be able to be okay with wearing certain colors. White and soft white is one of my favorite colors. And it took me a while to be okay with wearing that because for the longest time, I'd just not wear white. I'd be because it was so well ingrained in my head. And now, of course, like I love white and I'm gonna wear it. But like you see, right, how it continues pretty much
You look beautiful
unless
in
you
white,
stop
by
it.
the
Yeah.
way. You look beautiful in pale colors. You look beautiful in white, so you should wear them more often. And that's the thing. Like I think world is changing, and there are resistance movement, and there are things changing. Hopefully for the future generation too. And there is a growing movement, and that gives us a lot of hope. And there is more awareness. Not everything is based on comment, but things are changing. There's a non-profit organization called Women of Worth, which was established in 2008, that took out Dark is Beautiful campaign with the goal to empower everybody and stop portraying like light skin as superior. It was championed by your favorite actress, Nandita Das.
Yeah, I love her. I think it's funny. The movie that I remember her from most is its name is called Earth. It was released in the late 1990s with Amir Khan, and I was still like a teenager at that time, or in my I don't remember. Yeah, anyway, shouldn't give away my age every so often, but I clearly remember looking at her in the movie and those beautiful songs and thinking, wow, first of all, she is so beautiful. She captures the screen anytime she's on the screen. And then, but wait a minute. Not only is she clearly darker skinned, no attempt has been made to hide that fact. on TV, she's with lighter skinned actors around her, and her dark skin is shining as beautifully, and no amount of makeup has been made to cover away that beauty, beautiful skin color of hers. And like it was very empowering to see her in that movie, to be honest. It was like an eye opener. And for those who may not be very aware of this, like in Bollywood, most actors and actresses are preferred to be lighter skinned. It was especially true in the past. I think it's getting much, much better now. And there's also a very fun, very quirky, very fun video. It's called India's Got Color. Nandita Das launched it. It's like a music video in collaboration with UNESCO. It was launched long back 2019. It's still on YouTube somewhere. It's a fun video, and it basically is talking about the same thing, like, in a quirky way, you know, the way we do the weird things we do about color, and it's just made a song out of it. We'll add it again to our show notes. It has a lot of like other Bollywood actors as well. So yeah, I mean, I think things are moving up a lot, getting better. And recently, I think only a few days back, and I don't know when we'll show this podcast verse, but today when we are recording, like a few days back, Chanel, which is the global luxury brand, announced, and it had already got Bhavita Mandav, an Indian woman with very brown skin tone, opened one of its shows, and she's already very famous. But it also announced her as its house ambassador, which is huge. It is huge because what this means is that her face, with its color, like you and mine, it'll be visible globally and it'll be celebrated for its charm and beauty. And on that note, you know how much I love Pavita, right? Like, I just love her. She is such a charming, energetic, thoughtful, and a very, very intelligent young woman. And I think like that's what shines the most besides her physical beauty, because she's an amazing representation, first of all, for women everywhere, for what we could celebrate for in beauty. And that brown skin is lovely. I mean, I just love her energy. It's amazing.
And I think that is why representation matters, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's why it's like one of the most powerful things that's changing right now. When you see more brown people, more people of color taking important positions, being famous, being representative of some kind of power in movies and social media and boardroom, it does something to you,
Yeah.
especially if you are younger generation, if you are, a younger person. It tells you that you belong. It tells you that even if you look a certain way, that doesn't matter. If you do good things, you will be where you should be. So I think that that is one of the most beautiful thing of having representation. I also want to touch on social media. I know there are a lot of cons of social media, but the best thing about social media is that the screen belongs to everyone. Like
Yeah.
all of this Fair and Lovely and all of these other commercials, the whole the narrative was dominated by some marketing agencies. Like, we will put fair people on the top, but with social media, everybody can be out there, all body
100%.
shape, all color, right? And then there are brands like Lip Tinted, which is one of my favorite. It was founded similarly to celebrate diverse skin tones rather than to correct them. And they are building like businesses on the premise that brown skin is a starting point, not the problem to solve. So that's beautiful, right? And I do want to uh, give like a personal example, which is growing up, I always thought I was big into makeup, right? So growing up, I always thought that foundation and concealer existed to make us fairer,
Mm.
because I don't know, I always saw ma or any people around me, our cousins, they always had foundations which were much lighter than their skin tone. So that's what I knew. But when I came to America and I wanted to buy a foundation, and then that's when I learned. I went to Sephora, I don't know, someplace, and then I was trying to buy a foundation, and they were trying to do a skin match, and I'm like, "What are you talking about? You're not supposed to do a skin match. You're supposed to give
Mm.
me something lighter." And then when I started learning more, I realized, oh, the goal of foundation is to make your skin look smoother, like remove hyperpigmentation if you have any marks, if you want to like add a glow. It's not meant to lighten you. So that
Mhm.
was a time when I realized, oh, this makes so much sense, because now I just have to buy something that matches my skin. So that was like such a like enlightening moment in my life, that oh, that is what a foundation or concealer something is for, and not for making us lighter. But yeah, you get the idea of what I'm trying to say.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I escaped all of that because I never used foundation. So but yeah, you're right. Like, I think the perception was foundation makes your skin lighter. When we were growing up, that was, I think, the
Yeah.
storyline in
Ma
India.
always had it way lighter because I would put it on my skin and it would like make me
Oh,
so white. And I'm like, okay, so that's what I saw
oh.
growing up. So maybe this is the use case for a foundation. Later I realized, oh, I was wrong all along.
Wow. And maybe that's why I didn't put it. I'm like, wow, it's gonna just make me look fake. So what's the point,
You
right?
did get mad. I don't know if you remember during your wedding, whoever did your makeup, they made you a little bit lighter with the makeup, with
I
that skin
hated
shade.
it.
And you told me, I still remember, I was so young, you still told me you hated your makeup. And I was like, what are you talking about? You look beautiful. You said, no, I don't look like myself. I want to
Yes.
look like myself. And I was too young to understand at that time, but now I know what you meant.
Yeah. Yeah. I looked in the mirror, I'm like, who's this person?
Yeah.
This is not me. Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad we had this chat. It has opened up a lot of, thoughts and our own biases as well. So I do think, like, this is such a tough topic. It is obviously a topic that needs more depth, more thinking, more changes all across. And the question is, what can each one of us do about that in our own lives and in our own surroundings? So I do think, first of all, it starts with awareness that it is a problem. Let's not bury our head in the sand and say, no, it doesn't exist. No, it exists. It's very clear. So the ways we can try to solve it is, first of all, pay attention to the language we use, right? And the language that we hear around us. So when someone describes the bride as, oh, she's fair and beautiful, you could gently challenge it. Or she's not that beautiful because, she's not fair. Like the flip side, you could still challenge it. So if it's uncomfortable, it is uncomfortable. It will probably be uncomfortable, right? Like, it's very hard to, especially if it's from your family, coming from your family, like, how are you going to actually counter that? But you have to do it somehow and somewhere. So you'll have to
and not
practice it.
say and not say she is beautiful, but let's not use but with any compliment. Let's not do that. And I think also being mindful of the media you're consuming and what your
Yeah,
kids are seeing. So
true.
seeking out movies, shows, creators that represent diverse skin tones positively. So I think that would really help.
Agreed, agreed. And also, another thing is to check the beauty cabinet that we have. Like, at least be aware of the kind of products you are consciously or unconsciously buying just because somewhere you heard something that makes you think your skin color will look a certain way. It's it's of course everyone's prerogative to use what they want to use, but the more aware we are of why we're doing it, the more we can question and probably move in a better direction if
Yeah.
possible.
Also, having hard conversation helps. Like, talk to your kids about colorism before somebody else is teaches them something. So share your own experiences. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. How it has affected you, because Nandita Das said that no one thing changes a mindset. It changes gradually when number of things happen like simultaneously over time. So
Yep.
each conversation, each pushback, each moment of awareness is a step towards where we want to be.
Yep. And I think that's the power of what we're doing right here, right now, having this conversation. And that's what matters. So to wrap it up, I mean, I think we have said enough. There's not a lot we could say. We see beauty everywhere and see it in every form, and that's what we all hope the society becomes. And yeah, well, do you want to wrap it up, Nidhi?
Yeah, sure. We would love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced colorism? How has it shaped you? Have you ever pushed back? Any of your experiences would really help add more color to the conversation that we are trying to have. So DM us, email us at hello@chocolateandspicetalk.com. Drop us a comment whenever you're listening. This podcast is available wherever you get your podcast. So engage with us, comment anywhere you want. We're always listening.
Yep. Thank you for listening to us at Chocolate and Spice Talk, and we'll see you next time. Bye.